Hey, this is Deepak here from digitaldeepak.com and welcome to the week 12 of your training program. In week 12, we are going to learn about sales and how to influence people. And I call this week Igniting the Flame because just like you see in the image here, where if you ignite one matchstick, every other matchstick will get ignited without having to ignite each and every matchstick separately. Whatever you have learned until now and whatever you have built until now by learning the 11 weeks of this internship program, everything is just potential energy. Nothing has been converted into kinetic energy yet. It's just like if you spend 3 months building a car by yourself, and even after putting fuel in it, unless you start the car, you are not going to move it and you are not going to make any progress. Similarly, in the entire internship program, if you have done everything right until week 11, but if you don't give importance to week 12 and if you don't execute what is there in week 12, then it is like you have built a car, but you never started it and you never moved using the car. So that is why I call this week Igniting the Flame, because once you start making sales, you will start making revenue. And you can put this revenue back into research. You can put it back into community building. You can put it back into content creation, Facebook ads, Google ads. You can spend money to get a professional SEO expert. You can even go ahead and do deep marketing automation, which is costing money, right? So the profit to fund all this will only come from the sales. And the most beautiful part about this entire program and the entire approach that we have had, which is the NCATT framework, is that if you do the sales right, and even if you do the sales partially right, and if you keep the money coming in, then you will be able to go ahead and expand by hiring more people in your business to get more people who can take care of the various parts such as Facebook ads, Google ads, email marketing, lead generation, community building. You can hire a community manager for it. You can hire content writers. So everything can be fixed later. And even if you have done the entire thing imperfectly until now, where you are not doing it at the best of your capability, but you are just getting it done. Even if you have done that, then if you do the sales properly, then you will be able to start making a lot of profit, reinvest it in the business and start growing the business. So you don't need to be an expert in everything, but you need to definitely be an expert when it comes to sales. No business can survive without having a good sales process. So this is where the rubber meets the road. This is the best part of the internship program and also the most important part of the internship program. I recommend that you come back and watch this video several times and go ahead and go through this entire video, because it took me 10 years to master whatever I am teaching you in this video. And you cannot expect to absorb all the information in one stretch, right? You cannot just watch this video and all the things that I am explaining will just go into your head. It doesn't happen like that. So every time you repeat it, then the information will get absorbed, much better. And my goal is that if you watch this particular video like maybe 5 to 10 times, then you will probably get at least 70% of the experience that I have downloaded into your brain. And you will also be able to make sales just like I do the sales. So just clone the information that is there on my mind by watching this video multiple times. So with that note, let's get started. Let's look at what are we going to learn today in this particular video. We are going to look at the power of influence and persuasion. And these influence and persuasion triggers can be used even in other areas such as ad copywriting, email copywriting. You can even apply these methods in your life with your friends, with your family, and try to influence them and convince them. So that's going to be very interesting. Then we are going to look at the DNA of a salesman. If you have well nurtured warm leads, then you are going to sell it easily. So we are going to have a look at how we are going to keep it ready. The importance of practice and role play when it comes to sales. I'm going to teach you something called the natural sales methodology. And this is something that I came up with after doing a lot of research myself. And this is something that you will not see anywhere else. We are going to take a look at important points to remember when you are doing sales. We are going to talk about overcoming self-doubt, which is a very, very important area. We are going to talk about testing and optimizing, then digital freelancing, digital mentoring. So these are all the things that we are going to look at, and let's get to the first thing, which is the power of influence and persuasion. So think about it for a moment. who doesn't want power? I know that all of us have something against the word power because people in power have abused their power. So we have a negative sentiment towards power. But the harsh reality is that if you do not have power yourself, then you will become a victim of power. Right? There is no point in complaining about people who abuse the power. If you want better people to go ahead and take power, then it has to be you. There is no other way. So, whenever we feel powerless, like probably we feel powerless in front of our boss, maybe we feel powerless in front of our customers, we feel powerless in front of our investors. Sometimes we feel powerless in front of our wives or spouses. We feel powerless in front of parents, right? So, sometimes we have to go ahead and take the decision that they want us to take. But all this can be solved if you learn how to go ahead and get influence over other people and how to persuade other people. And once you start learning and practicing this, you will start gaining power. You will start gaining social power, economic power, every kind of power, power over yourself and your own weaknesses also. So before we do all this, before we learn, how to become more powerful and how to become more influential, you first have to understand that you should be okay having power. If you have negative sentiments towards power, then you will not become powerful yourself anytime. You have to have a comfort where if you are getting more powerful, financially powerful, socially powerful, emotionally powerful, then it is a good thing, because when you are powerful like that, then nobody else can manipulate you. And it doesn't mean that you have to use that power to manipulate others, which you can. And we are going to talk about the ethics of using these techniques and how to use these techniques properly. But just because you might have the power to use it in the wrong way doesn't mean that you should not have the power in the first place. So be comfortable with that thought. And it's a very, very deep thought that I just shared. And then you will probably absorb all the information that I am going to tell in this video in a much better way. So the power of influence and persuasion. If you do not have power yourself, you will not be shielded from power. You will become a victim of power. There is no point complaining that people are abusing power. Instead of asking them to use power carefully or not have power, grab the power yourself. Power hates vacuum. If you don't take it, it will be taken by someone not worthy of that power. Learning sales is a path to more power. It is a form of mastery. Power comes from influence over other people's decisions. This is not mind control, because you are not making people behave against their self-interests. Influence can be ethical. It takes the form of inspiration many times. Like, I have a lot of power. I have been able to convince more than 5,000 people to join my internship program at the time of making this video. And I have been able to use the power in a good way to inspire people, to teach people, and to make people transform. So you can definitely take the route of inspiration and influence people and have a positive mindset about the entire thing. And you have to remember that everybody is a salesman. You are always selling. You are selling ideas, decisions. You are making kids behave. That is also selling, right? You are trying to convince your kid, if you have kids. You are going to sell to investors, right? If you want to convince investors to invest in your company, you have to definitely sell to customers, and you have to sell some ideas to yourself as well. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. We are very good at selling bad ideas to ourselves. If you think that you are not good enough, if you think that you cannot want a lot in life, if you think that you cannot grow and have abundance, then you are selling a bad idea to yourself. You are trying to convince yourself about a bad idea by putting in a bunch of triggers and convincing points. If you can sell yourself a bad idea, I would recommend that why don't you try selling yourself a good idea? A good idea like, yes, I will have excellent health, I will have excellent relationships, I will have a lot of money, and I will build a lot of wealth, I will create impact. So these are good ideas, right? So you can literally brainwash yourself and sell yourself some good ideas. And if you can do that, then you will be a much better salesperson, because if you can sell yourself an idea against your natural tendency of believing in negative things, if you can sell yourself positivity and good ideas, then you will be able to go ahead and sell anything to anyone. So sales starts at home. Sales starts in front of the mirror. And I want you to, believe good things about yourself and your future. And that is a good place to start. There is a science to persuasion. Anyone can learn it. It is like cooking or cycling. You don't need to be a born salesman. I was not a born salesman. I hardly was able to go in front of 30 people when I was in my college and give a good lecture. I was not able to do it. And everything that I have today, I have learned, the art of video making, the art of selling. Everything is because I absorbed information. I attended training programs, I attended mastermind sessions, became part of exclusive groups of CEOs. And I was able to learn all this, and that is what I'm giving it to you. So, irrespective of whoever you are, you don't need to be thinking that salesmen are born, salesmen are made. And in this video, we are going to see how we are going to make you a salesperson. If you learn how to sell, then you will find your treasure. So I hope you have read the book Alchemist. If not, go ahead and definitely have a look at it. It's a small book and a very very well known book. And in Alchemist, this shepherd boy goes in search of a treasure, and his whole life is a path to his treasure. And I will not reveal the ending of what happened, but the entire book is around finding your treasure. But finding your treasure doesn't mean that you have to actually find one pot of gold buried somewhere. It could be something that you love to do. If you have figured out what you want in life, then that is definitely going to be finding your treasure. And sometimes you need wealth. You need wealth to buy yourself freedom, and you need wealth to go ahead and free yourself of servitude, to not have a boss. And when you have that freedom, you will have freedom to do creative things. Like I am having that freedom. I quit my job in 2017, and because of this freedom, I have been able to understand what I am good at and understand what I enjoy doing. Like right now, it doesn't feel like work for me. I'm going ahead and having a good time making this video for you and teaching what is on my mind to you. Just like very good sense of pleasure in sharing something positive with you, that hey, these are the sales techniques. If you apply this, you can also make money. So you need to keep your focus on that. And this is going to be a tough journey. You are not going to become a good salesman as soon as you finish watching this video. This is not your transport, right? This is only a map. You have to travel the path yourself. This video is not going to take you to the destination. This video is like a map which will tell you in which direction to go and what to do. And you need to understand that sales mastery takes a lot of years. And you can learn about sales in one video in 2 hours, but mastery will take many years. Sometimes they say that you have to spend 10 years in one subject to go ahead and completely master it. Some people say that it's going to be 10,000 hours. But whatever it is, stick through it and make sure that you become a master salesman. And then you will find your treasure. Then you don't need to worry about anything in your life, because money will unlock options in your life. You can make sure that you are not serving anyone. You have the freedom, and then that will help you go ahead and do whatever you are passionate about. And that's when the real compounded results will start coming in, because you will go ahead and spend time on something only if you love doing it. Like right now, it's Saturday evening, 8:30. My friends are actually partying today, but I'm in my office sitting and doing this video because I enjoy doing this more than hanging out with my friends and probably having a party there, drinking and things like that. I enjoy creating this video a lot more. So that is why I'm able to do what I do. That is why I'm able to do it in a better way. So you will do things in a better way when you find what you love to do. And before you get to that freedom, before we buy that freedom, we need to sell. Even if selling is not something that comes to us naturally, we have to sell, because that's how we make progress. Now let's have a look at 6 psychological hacks to influence people. And this is something that I picked up from Dr. Robert Cialdini, who has written this book called Influence. And if you want to learn more about this, then I recommend you reading that book. It has a lot of practical examples as well. So I'm going to reveal the 6 powerful psychological hacks that will give you the power to convince anyone of anything. It could be even friends and family. It could be relatives. And apart from convincing customers to buy your product, you will wield power and influence over many other people. These methods are very powerful, and I recommend them that you use it ethically. And these methods work because the human psychology has been formed over millions of years and it cannot be changed immediately. It is what made us survive and thrive. And these are something that has been inbuilt in our species to make sure that we survive and thrive. So this is not something that can be easily changed, right? And that's one of the best things about learning sales, marketing, and human psychology, because whatever other things that you learn, it might get outdated. Let's say you go ahead and learn coding. You learn coding in a particular development language. Maybe 10 years down the line, you might have to relearn it, right? And a lot of other things also we have to relearn, methodologies on how to do things, processes. All these things change over time. Like, for example, people spend years studying for CA, but it's all dependent on the rules that the government has made, which can also change. So when you study medicine, then that is something that will not change very easily, because human physiology is the same, and it's going to be the same for a very, very long time. And human psychology is also going to be static. So when you learn human psychology, then you are going to get better and better at it over time. In the society, you don't see any app developers who have like 50 years experience and he's like a world renowned app developer. No, those things are like dynamic. It's fast changing. You don't even see civil engineers and mechanical engineers who have like 50 years of experience become like the top people in the world. But when you look at doctors, then you can see that doctors are gaining expertise over the decades, and by 50 or 60 years of experience, they have like such an authoritative position in the world. And when you look at let's say architecture, when you look at creativity, a lot of things that has to that is related to humans directly, they don't change very very fast. And because they don't change very fast, you can gain expertise on it, because that variable is a constant, right? So you can keep gaining expertise on it, and it will start giving you compounded results once you keep doing it for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. So the compounded results will come in this field, which is something that you have to trust. When I say that, you stick to marketing, stick to sales, and it's going to take a long time to gain mastery. But even after you gain mastery in it, you can keep growing, and you can really compound the results coming from this particular field of study. And as I said, these hacks can be used anywhere. And these hacks have been inspired by Robert Cialdini, from the book Influence, a highly recommended read for all marketers. And you can use these influence techniques in print, ad copies, emails, sales pages, websites, sales webinars, live sales calls, meetings, negotiations. So all these areas can go ahead and make use of the 6 psychological hacks that I'm going to tell you about right now. And I'm pretty sure that you are excited. I think I have created some hype about this as well, about the power of this. But let's start, seeing this. And this is just like magic, okay? Until you find, how the particular magic trick works, you are going to be very, very curious. You will see it as magic. But once you know how the magic trick works, once the magician tells you, and then you will be like, hey, this is very easy. So you will feel similar, that these 6 psychological hacks, you will start seeing it in your own life, and it will become very obvious. Oh yeah, why am I not using it? So you have to realize that once I reveal this, these things are going to look simple, and this is something that you will relate to yourself. And these 6 things are so powerful that even a marketer like me will get influenced because of these 6 things. So let's go ahead and have a look at the first trigger, which is reciprocity. So what is reciprocity? Humans have been trained to reciprocate gifts as a way to strengthen community bonds for millions of years. Humans are social animals, right? Long back, when you look at how humans evolved, humans, even though humans are very weak, we are not as strong as gorillas, we are not as fast as cheetahs, we are much, much weaker than horses and other big animals. But we have been able to thrive, and we have been able to rise this ladder and become the most dominant species in the world, because humans can communicate with each other. No species has language as a communication medium. They have sounds, they have gestures, but they don't have complex language. So language basically is a way to strengthen communities, right? And humans are working like bees. Humans are working together in partnership with each other. So that is why humans have been able to beat even big animals, right? Like for example, if humans wanted to capture horses, then even if there are like 20 horses, 100 humans can get together and go ahead and set up a system, like a barricade or something like that, where the horses can be captured, right? So humans have been evolving like that, beating all the other species which are stronger than humans, because humans communicate with each other. So this strengthening of the community, within small tribes also happen because there is give and take. People give gifts to each other. When you look at your own family, an extended family, whenever there is a marriage function, people start giving gifts to each other. They present cash, they present gold, and they keep track of it, and it always comes back, right? So reciprocity is deeply ingrained in the human psyche. So if I give you a gift, then if you give me a gift, then I will feel obliged to give you back something, right? So this is always going to strengthen bonds, and this is true in family circles. And this is one of the examples that I read in the book Influence. So Hare Krishna devotees have seen higher responses with donation requests in airports by giving a rose to random passengers. So they would just go ahead and randomly give a rose to people who are just coming into the airport, and then there will be another devotee of Hare Krishna who will go ahead and ask for donation, and people would feel difficult to say no because they have received a rose and they feel like giving something back, right? So online marketers also publish free content and give away courses and ebooks, and it is a way to trigger reciprocity. A lot of people who have joined my internship program joined after they attended one of my free webinars, and they got a lot of value from my free webinar. And when you get a lot of value for free, then there is an obligation to give back. So people are like, okay, let's buy Deepak's stuff. So when you add value, then you are going to go ahead and get the reciprocation. Like for example, a lot of freelancers, they struggle to convert clients, but freelancers are always asking for the money first, and then they are going to say that, hey, I will give you value second. And it is just like, you cannot go ahead and say that, hey, give me warmth first, then I will put the wood into the fire. No, it cannot happen like that. You have to put the wood into the fire before you can get warmth from it, right? So similarly, a lot of freelancers who struggle to get clients, my recommendation is that go ahead and give a free consultation. Give something genuinely of value, and it's not like they will just take away what you have given and just go ahead and do it themselves, because when people see something of value, they're always thinking that there is a lot more value that this person can give. So they will actually improve the trust. They will also feel an obligation to give back. And anybody who is going to be greedy in the long term in an ethical way, they are going to go ahead and try to build a stronger relationship with you. So even if you give some free consultation to a startup or some person, don't hesitate giving away. That is how I have built my business. I have basically given away every secret in this training program, basically the entire blueprint of my business, the most powerful things I have. And that is how I build trust. And I don't feel like I will get a competition. I don't feel like my market share is reducing, because I believe in abundance, and it's not a scarce world that we live in. We live in an abundant world. So once you have that mindset, you will also start attracting abundance, right? We need to help each other. So that is why I give away a lot, and people naturally build the reciprocity, and they come back and buy things from me. And whenever I have given free consultations to startup CEOs, I can always go and ask them something back. I can ask them to connect me with an investor. I can go ahead and get some advice from them about entrepreneurship and how they run their companies, about taxation and things like that. So that is how the world goes round, right? Give and take. So a gift increases a sense of trust, and then the transaction can happen easily without friction. That's what we are looking for, right? We are looking for frictionless transactions, and that is why I call it natural sales. So these things are going to be there even if before you get on a sales call. A lot of people think that if you just read out the sales script correctly, if you just have a powerful sales pitch, then you can just go ahead and sell easily. No, it's not like that. You need to have a relationship first before you can go ahead and convince someone of something, right? So this relationship is a very, very good way to influence. And now, by now, you have discovered that, all this is very ethical and very moral, and this is already happening. We just are not observing it. Most of the people are not observing it. It is happening on automation. So give and take, but also remember, don't give and take, right? You have to kind of keep that balance. Even if people are paying you, then you have to go ahead and give them more than what they paid for. That I believe in a 10x rule. If you pay me 1,000 rupees, then I will give you 10,000 rupees worth of value. That should be worth 10,000 rupees. That is why it is a great deal for you, right? If what I am giving you is only 500 rupees worth, but if I am charging 1,000 rupees for it, then it's not a great deal for you. You will feel like you are losing money. So you should feel like you are gaining money even when you are spending money. When I go ahead and give you 10x value, right? And that's how you have to think about your customers. This is like an extremely easy way to become wealthy and grow your company, right? Just think about giving more value to your customers. 10x value. So if your customers are giving you 5,000 rupees, give them 50,000 rupees worth of value, and then it becomes a great deal. Your customers are happy, they will refer more customers. But most of the people do not have that mindset because they are not thinking from abundance, they are thinking from scarcity. People are thinking about what can I take from the customer, how much money I can take. They are not thinking about how much they can give. And all these things are the things that make a salesperson a better salesperson. Effortless transactions. People will just go ahead and buy from a particular brand because they trust that brand, and you build trust using reciprocity. So I hope you liked this first one, which is the most powerful, reciprocity. Now let's go ahead and look at scarcity, right? Polar opposite. I just talked about abundance, but now I am talking about scarcity. But scarcity in the sense, people will always value something if it is scarce, right? When water is abundant, we don't value water, but when there is a water shortage, then we value water a lot. So whenever something is low in quantity, people value it more. So the value of anything that is low in supply will be higher. When time is limited in supply, the value of each minute is also higher. If you are having a busy day, even spending 10 minutes on phone with a random person is going to be painful because time is valuable. When water is in low supply, each drop of water is more valuable. Scarcity technique can also be used in unethical ways, but it is very effective when used ethically as well, right? You can always lie that this is the last unit remaining, and it will work, but it's unethical. It will damage the brand in the long term. So when I say enrollments for my digital marketing internship program is closing, that's when people rush to enroll in the program. And my scarcity is true, right? I have limited people that I can take in every batch. I cannot take unlimited people. Like a lot of people who sell courses, they will say that they have limited stock, but it's digital. So there is no such thing as a limited stock. But we have mentors who teach you. We have mentors who support you. So we have a real limitation. So when I go ahead and tell that, then the conversion increases. And I get so many emails when I close the batch. People are like, can I still join? Can I still join? And almost all the e-commerce stores show the units remaining to encourage the sales. If you have ordered from Amazon, don't you think that you are a little bit more influenced to order if it says 1 unit remaining? Definitely yes. So you have to use this scarcity in an ethical way in your own sales process. And scarcity can be in the form of time or supply. You can say today is the last day to enroll. It is scarcity. Or you can say I have only 10 units or 20 units remaining if it is a physical product. And last day to enroll is effective. Only 5 seats remaining is also effective. Either way. So scarcity. So we just talked about reciprocity and scarcity. I hope these two things itself give you like a ton of ideas inside your mind on how you can use this to sell better. And now let's talk about another important trigger, which is authority. So what is authority? When someone is in a position of authority saying something to us, then we are influenced easily by them. When we do not know something well, we trust other people who know things better than us. The power of influence comes from authority. So if other authorities can influence us, we can also influence others as an authority ourselves. For example, I consult other authorities, CAs, doctors, lawyers, finance experts for different things in life. and I do not question authority, right? I am influenced by them. If my doctor says that, hey Deepak, you do this, then I will do that. Hey Deepak, go ahead and take these medications, I will do that. If my lawyer says that, hey, go ahead and sue this person before he sues you, then I will probably sue a person. So I need to consult experts, right? So they are the authority. So when it comes to digital marketing, I know it better than all of them. I am pretty sure that no doctor, lawyer, or CA whoever is consulting me can do digital marketing as good as I do. And I will be the authority to tell them what is right and what is wrong. And when it comes to marketing online, and I will be able to convince them easily. And you will also have indicators of authority, right? Sometimes people do not know if you are an expert or not unless you have some indicators. You might be an expert, but how will people know about it? So graduation from a particular university, certification, prizes, projects, recognition in the industry, published books, invitation to talk at certain platforms, branding by association, all this is going to add to the indicators of your authority. So let's have a look at my authority indicators and why I am considered as an authority in the digital marketing niche. So I have active email subscriber base of more than 500,000 people. I have done a TEDx talk and it has almost 1 million views. I have published a book and it has an average rating of 4.9 stars. I speak at conferences with more than 1,000 plus attendees. It needs a certain level of self confidence and authority over your own subject. You need to be a subject matter expert. Size of my team definitely is a way to show my authority. So if I am running a company which has 1,000 employees, I will be taken more seriously. Right now I am running a company with a little bit more than 10 employees, and I'm also going to have a look at traffic to my blog. If my blog gets a lot of traffic, then I have authority. Backlinks, YouTube subscribers, Twitter followers are also some levels of authority, even though you cannot always look at popularity and say that a person is authoritative, but this is definitely an indicator. Testimonials and feedback from customers, having worked with Fortune 500 companies, and writing, right? Thought leadership articles. If people read my article and if they feel like I'm making sense, then I also go ahead and have an authority. Webinar attendees, whenever I do a webinar, I get 2,000 to 3,000 people live, and that is definitely a way to show my authority. Unless I am someone that is worth listening to, thousands of people will not be listening to me, right? So this is how you need to start building your portfolio. It will take a long time, but go ahead and publish a book, get good ratings, conversions across the entire thing will go up, right? Across the entire funnel, conversions will go up because your customers will look up to you, because anybody who publishes a book is looked at as an authority, and clients will look up to you. If you go to a job, go to the job interview with a book in your hand, or send book samples to the CEO of all the companies that you know, and tell them that you are looking for a job and you are an expert in so and so. So let's say you are looking for a design job, and go ahead and write a book on design. Go ahead and publish it. Nobody is stopping you. And even if you are not the number one expert, you still have something to share with the world, right? So go ahead and share it. And even if you get your close circle of 10-20 people to give a review on Amazon, and if you have good 4.5 plus star ratings, then people will take you seriously for sure. In fact, I take book publishing so seriously. I have published a couple of books myself, and I'm planning to launch a book publishing internship program as well, where you are going to learn how to publish a book from scratch, and I'm going to give you tasks and exercises, and by the end of the internship program, you will actually have a book ready. You will get it published, you will have a print copy of it, you will also go ahead and get an ISBN number. So look forward to it. And speak at different places, TEDx, Josh Talks, a lot of different platforms are there. And this is also one authority indicator I have. I am listed on the Google Knowledge Panel. So if you search for my name, Google will tell you about me. If people have a lot of press coverage and a lot of mentions across the web, then Google considers these people to be important, and also depends on the search volume, right? Because a lot of people are searching about me right now. So this might not be very intentional, but you might be able to get it, after a few years of being in the industry. So I have YouTube subscribers, Twitter followers. So that's three different, psychological triggers that we have seen until now. Reciprocity, then we looked at scarcity, and we looked at authority. So now let's go ahead and look at commitment and consistency, right? So people are more likely to stick to something if they commit to it. People like to be consistent with their decisions because a change in decision is difficult, and the mind goes like known devils are better than unknown angels, right? Like for example, look at Android users. They are not comfortable switching to an iPhone even if they can buy an iPhone in many cases, because they are like known devils are better than unknown angels. And it will be very difficult to convince them that iOS is better, right? People who are having Android will feel like no, Android is better, because their first phone might have been an Android phone, and they are very much convinced that I like Android, I got used to Android, and they will not be even open to trying out the idea that iOS might be better, right? Even you might disagree with me. I feel that iOS is better, and there might be a little bit of a mental block in you that you don't want to take any information which is conflicting with your belief. Because when people go ahead and buy an iPhone, then they are also accepting that by buying an Android and thinking that Android was better, they are mistaken, and people do not like to conclude that they were wrong. And it's very difficult to change people's mindsets, right? Even religious things and spiritual things, political things, people are like so stuck with one ideology that it's very difficult to shake them up and look at a different perspective. So you can use that to your advantage. You can try to get commitment from people and then use it against them. Like for example, in the book Influence by Robert Cialdini, he talks about a story where a bunch of volunteers went to a particular town to collect donations for a cancer foundation. And they tried two towns, and two towns both are like having nearly the same demographic, and they basically did something like split testing, A/B testing, right? So they went to the first village, they knocked at every door, and they asked for donation for the cancer foundation, and they noted down how many people said yes and how many people actually gave the funds. And then they went to the next city, and in the next city what they did was that they knocked on every door. They also went to a town square where people gathered, and they said that we are from the cancer foundation, and to show your solidarity and to show your concern that you care for cancer patients in the world, please tie this yellow ribbon on your wrist. So everybody went ahead and put yellow ribbon on their wrist, and they said that yeah, I am concerned. So here they are not asking for donations, they are asking for something which is low commitment, right? They are asking for something which is not going to cost them anything. So in this, what happens is that people are going ahead and trying to convince themselves and trying to sell themselves the idea that yes, I am someone who cares for cancer patients in the world, and I feel sorry for them. So these volunteers went to the same city after a week and then asked for donations to the cancer foundation. Guess what? The conversion rate has doubled now. 100% more people now said yes. So it's like 200% now. Said yes to giving funds for the cancer foundation. Why? Because they were not able to contradict themselves. Because if they say no to giving the donation, then they are contradicting their own belief that they actually care for cancer patients, right? And then it feels bad. And then they are like, last week only I said that I care for cancer patients. Now how can I go ahead and say no to this? So they feel a little bit of friction within themselves. So when you go ahead and get people committed to something on a very small level, like for example, if I can get people to go ahead and sign up for my workshop or a mini course, then there is a higher chance that I can go ahead and convince them to go for my internship program, and from there I can convince them to go for my digital marketing club or the personal mentorship program. So it is very easy to take people up one by one, right? Get them to commit to something small and then ask for bigger commitments. And this is how dating also works. When you look at a guy going ahead and asking a girl out on a date, the guy cannot ask the girl to get married to him right away, right? He will probably ask for her phone number, which is a very low commitment, and then probably a date, then probably a few more dates, then probably a vacation, and maybe after 3 months and 6 months of knowing each other, they decide to get engaged and get married. So here you can see that the commitment levels are taken up one by one, one level at a time. So there is always a hidden cost to switch from one brand to another, right? People, once they get convinced that, okay, this person is good for me, or this brand is good for me, this product is good for me, then there is a friction, right? There is a hidden cost to switch your belief systems. And that's how a lot of relationships also happen, right? When you get into a relationship with a person, the person might have flaws, you might be able to find someone else without those flaws, but then it becomes like known devils are better than unknown angels. And since you are already comfortable with a certain level of drawbacks, then you go ahead and continue with the same person. If you have started using Android phones, and even if you have money, you might not switch to iPhones because you just got used to it. A lot of people feel a lot of difficulty switching from Windows laptop to Mac, right? You need to get people comfortable with your brand and start using your products and services, and then you will be able to have them on a hook. If someone has a good experience with a 500 rupee product, he will trust the brand more and be comfortable buying a 10,000 rupee product. And this is the typical funnel, right? And we have discussed about funnels and how you can ascend customers from a small transaction value to a higher transaction value over time. A book can also be a very good tripwire, and these front end products, which are supposed to just build the relationship with the customers, are called tripwires. And a book will cost like 500 rupees, right? So it is very easy to get people to know about you when you go ahead and write a book. Trust and familiarity makes conversions easy. Getting an opportunity to showcase value at a low cost is so valuable that people actually spend 1000 rupees or more to acquire a customer for 500 rupees. Have you seen a lot of people selling 499 rupee workshops? They actually spend more than 499 rupees on advertising to get these people to attend the workshops, because once people attend a workshop and once people get comfortable with a brand, then it becomes easier to convert them into a buyer for a higher end product, right? And when the higher end product sales happens, then people will be able to recover the money. And you can see that this is a model that I also apply. How can I pay people to learn? Because once people start learning from me, they can get attached to me in to my teaching style. They will develop trust with me, and once the trust is there, I can do higher level transactions with them. So a funnel's price points go from free to premium, and you can also call it moving the free line, which is something that I learned from Eben Pagan, who was one of my mentors. And the moving the free line means that on the left you have something for free, on the right you have something very very premium, and you take customers slowly, step by step, one level at a time, because you can get people stuck to something and be comfortable using it, right? Like for example, look at Ahrefs. Ahrefs is something that we discussed in week 10 when we discussed about SEO. And Ahrefs has a free tool now called Ahrefs Webmaster Tools, and people can just log in into Ahrefs. They can go ahead and configure their site, and they get comfortable with the brand, they get comfortable with the interface, and then upgrading from Ahrefs Webmaster Tools, which is free, to the actual Ahrefs subscription, which is $99 a month, is going to have very less friction, right? So that is how commitment and consistency works, and the funnel is made based on this particular concept. So now that we have looked at 4 important things: reciprocity, scarcity, authority, commitment and consistency, both are the same thing. And now let's look at the next most important thing, very very important, which is social proof. So whenever you go ahead and buy something, you look at the ratings, right? Which means that if other people have had a good experience with something, then I will also have a good experience with it. So we don't want to make decisions ourselves. We want to outsource the decision making to others, and sometimes it can also go to an extreme where just because everybody in India is doing engineering, everybody else does engineering, even though there are no requirements for so many engineers. So social proof can also act negatively, but it can also be used positively, and you might have been influenced by social proof a lot. So we don't want to do in-depth research ourselves with every buying decision. It would be very, very time consuming. So that is why we rely on the decisions of others. We want to learn from others' mistakes. If someone bought a product and they were not happy with it, then we will stay away from that brand. And that is why if a product or service does not have good quality, and if people leave negative reviews, then it is social proof acting against you. If someone brought a product and they are extremely happy with it, then they will recommend it to their friends, And this internship program, almost 50% of the people who joined the internship program is because of recommendation from other people, right? So apart from trusting the recommendations of friends, we also look at the ratings, reviews, and testimonials online. If you have a product with top-notch reviews, it is always easier to sell the product than when you are new. So social proof is a powerful ally for conversion. So when you look at ratings, this is my social proof, right? I have 1087 reviews at 4.8 star rating. And this is very, very difficult to achieve. I was able to achieve this by, working day and night to create quality training programs for my students and for my interns. And that is what has given such levels of traction. Let's look at the last trigger, which is liking. And until now, we have looked at reciprocity, scarcity, authority, social proof, commitment and consistency, and the last one is liking. Human beings are social animals, and we already discussed about that when we talked about reciprocity. Humans will always be influenced to mimic or copy the people that they like. So we want to be liked by each other and we want to belong in a community or a tribe. The decision making of individuals is impacted by their belonging to a tribe. So liking is not just how likable and admired you are, it is also based on the tribe that you have created and how much the members of the tribe like other members of the tribe. When all things are equal, human beings like to do business with people they like, admire, and can relate to, and can get inspired from. And that is why, even if you are successful, being humble can actually be profitable. A lot of people say that I am humble, I am down to earth, but there is also a very clear business motive around it, right? If I am egoistic and if I am just flaunting my wealth and if I am making people feel like they don't belong in my world, then people will not buy from me. That doesn't mean that I'm actually faking it. I'm actually humble. But even if people fake it, they can still have an influence on it, right? So when you are building a personal brand, you do not have a business, you are the business. So that is why, a personal brand being likable is very important. And you do not need capital as a personal brand because you are the capital. So this is called the personal capital. Your sales depends on you. You need to be charismatic, energetic, and a friendly person. And for that, you need to be a good person. You need to be an inspiring person in the first place, right? So what we are looking at is that when we looked at the success mindset video, which is week 1, we looked at how you can be a better person, right? So if you want to be inspiring, you have to be actually a better person. You can't just fake as if you are a better person. People have to be inspired from you, for which you have to actually grow. And growth will come with discipline, growth will come with intentions. And if all this comes together, then things will start having like an impact on each other, and it will become like a snowball effect. Being down to earth helps more than being fancy and unreachable. People should look up to you but shouldn't feel disconnected from you, right? So you need to be inspiring, but at the same time you should not be hated. You should not be infamous or unpopular. So let's have a look at a recent poll that I did in my Telegram channel. I asked people, as a personal brand, am I approachable, humble, and friendly? 85% of them said yes, and this was shared in a Telegram group which has 42,000 subscribers, and I got 928 votes from that. So which is a good sampling size, and this means that I'm going in the right direction, and I might also want to go ahead and look at how I can make my approachability to maybe 95%. So I also do this, right? I also go ahead and meet people in real life. Even if it is a small group that I am meeting, it improves the brand image. When you look at pictures like this, then you are like, oh, Deepak is a person who goes and meets his followers, even if you have not met me. There is a likability factor that is added, right? So I talk to people, I ask about them, I'm interested in them, what do you do, how is business going, and things like that. So when you are interested in people, they will automatically get interested in you, and that is how you build friendships. And this is something that anyone can do, right? It just needs a good heart. And if you become likable, then your sales will improve. And until now we have looked at 6 different psychological triggers, and you can see that how this is very practical and very practical to be applied in the real world. And if you do this, then your business has a better chance to grow. And these are the things that I wanted to cover before we actually get into the sales tactics, the natural sales methodology, because this is the foundation, right? And this communication is going to not just be in the sales call that you have, it is going to be there even before. That's what creates that brand impact, right? So that will help you improve the conversions. It's not always dependent on the proposal that you give, right? Imagine it like this. If you are proposing to your girlfriend, assuming that you are a boy, if you are proposing the concept of marriage, or just asking her hand in marriage, if you are doing it, let's say 6 months after being in the relationship, then it is not so much on what you say on that day, right? When you are asking her to marry you, then it's not going to be about what are the words that you are going to talk on that particular day. It's always going to be about how the relationship was for 6 months. Was it a happy relationship? And if you are a girl, then you can just put yourself in the girl's place. So just like that, when we look at sales, sales is so less about what happens during the sales call. Sales is so much more about what happens before the sales call, in terms of creating a good brand image, creating a community, triggering reciprocation, being a likable brand, having good social proof, having authority indicators. So getting that commitment and consistency to get people, like, even if you go ahead and just build a tribe, then that itself is a level of commitment and consistency for them to come into your ecosystem, right? So these are the things that are very important. And that is why I feel like India is not ready for sales. I have seen a lot of companies, a lot of salespeople, they have no idea how to sell, and the only sales pitch that they have is, please sir, please buy my stuff. That's what salespeople do. And we have a negative perception about salesmen, because we have not seen good salesmen, right? Which we will talk about in the next section. So where to use these triggers? Let's quickly refresh before we get into natural sales methodology. So you are going to go ahead and start using it on ad copies, then opt-in landing pages, email copies, sales pages, online videos, live webinars, sales events, one-to-one sales calls, one-to-one sales meetings. You are going to apply these 6 triggers of influence in all these communication channels. And you can see that if you are selling something low cost, then you can just sell it on email or a sales page. If you are selling something for $4.99, then you don't need a one-to-one sales call to convert people. You can just write about it, send an email, and start seeing the conversions. And if you remember what we learned about in the lead generation module, you would remember that when the product price is low, then we do more of marketing. When the product price is high, we do more of sales. So these triggers can be used in all these areas. And even the email copies and sales pages are basically like salesmanship in print, right? Just like we looked at this particular person who said salesmanship in print in week 11, we are basically looking at salesmanship in digital copies, right? So now let's go ahead and have a look at the idea that these triggers are very powerful. So you have to use it ethically. Don't say that you are running out, and don't create false scarcity. Don't say that only 2 units remaining when you have 10 units remaining. It will actually do a lot of brand damage to you in the long term. So be ethical, be straightforward, and develop a reputation of being extremely ethical. Authority also, don't fake the authority. Don't fake the social proof. There are a lot of startups in India who fake their social proof. So definitely don't do it. Don't do reciprocation just with the intention of getting something back. Do gifting, do giveaway stuff, give away value with a genuine desire of going ahead and adding value to people's lives. And also go ahead and create a community where the liking factor increases. And don't be humble and down to earth and be likable just so that you can make more sales. You have to be humble and likable to make more sales. Doesn't mean that you can fake being humble and likable, right? That's very difficult to do anyway. People who are genuine and people who are ethical will always be able to find out a person if they are faking it. So now that we have talked about the foundation of this entire particular week, let's go ahead and have a look at the DNA of a salesman. And this is where the actual game begins. You are going to learn how to sell. So what is the DNA of a salesman? Have you seen a really good salesman ever? There are good chances that you do not remember it, because the best salesman will sell you something and you will not feel like you were sold to. Most of the salespeople that we have seen in our life are very pushy, right? They are like, please sir, please sir, please sir, and they will keep calling us, they will irritate us. So we think that sales is a negative thing, and we have developed a negative image about salespeople in general, and we feel like it's a lowly job, right? But it need not be. Sales can be a very very high end job if you know how to do it. And I am a salesman myself, and you are here in this program because I sold you on the idea of the internship program. You joined, and it's not a very cheap program either. Even though you are getting all the cash back, it's a commitment. It's a trust that is required in the beginning. And when good sales happens, you do not feel like you are sold to. Good sales is all about creating the right buying environment and letting the buyer buy, right? Like for example, if you walk into a showroom and if you are just choosing what to buy, you are not feeling like you are being sold to. It is your decision to buy. Even when you are buying something very costly. So let's say you are going into a watch showroom and you are buying a watch for 50,000 rupees. And let's hope that one day you become rich enough to buy a 50,000 rupee or a 1 lakh rupee watch. And when you buy this, you feel like it's in your power to say no to it or to decide to buy it, and you feel powerful, right? So good sales is about that. Good sales is about empowering the buyer to go ahead and buy. And I hope that when you got into this internship program, it didn't feel like I pushed you into this internship program. You bought into the internship program because you wanted to buy it, and it doesn't feel like sales at all. And that is the kind of sales that you should be doing. There is also this misconception that good sales people need to be extroverts, but I'm an introvert myself, right? It's just a myth. So anybody can sell, even if you are an introvert, because there is a science behind it, which we are going to learn. And if you learn the art of traffic and marketing, you will never run out of leads. And it's very important to have the entire marketing funnel, to have the positioning, to have the market research done, to have a community, to understand people's needs, to drive traffic and generate leads and go ahead and nurture these leads. All this is important to have quality leads, right? Because without quality leads, you cannot sell in the first place. So if you know how to convert leads into sales, then you will never go hungry because you can always sell. That is the ultimate skill. And you can be great at sales irrespective of your age, gender, and race, right? Anybody can be good at sales because it's just science. You need to be good at sales because you are not just selling products and services to your customers. You are selling the idea of the company to your team. You are selling the idea to your investors. And then you are also trying to convince people of anything and everything around your life. So you need to be good at sales, which will make you a better person overall. If you do not master the art of sales, then your business will always struggle. Learn how to influence people and get them to say yes, right? A lot of people do not sell, and they try to make money by just putting themselves out on YouTube. They keep creating YouTube videos, and I have known people who have like 1 million subscribers on YouTube, but they are not making much money because they don't have a product, they don't have a marketing funnel, and they don't know how to sell. A lot of people who look successful on the outside with a lot of Instagram followers do not have a marketing funnel, they do not have a product. And when you look at these people, we mistake their popularity for success. And sometimes popularity can give you certain level of authority, but it is not success, right? And this is one of the reasons that a lot of people are stuck doing what they are doing without going ahead and doing sales, because if you do sales, then life will become easier. All the other parts of your business can be fixed later. You can start with a minimum viable product. For example, a lot of things in my business are yet to be fixed properly. They are not running like a well-oiled machine, but I am managing because I am able to get the sales going. I am able to bring in the revenue. So whatever you have done until week 11, you don't need to do it perfectly. Even if you just do the first version of it, which is a minimum viable product or a minimum viable setup, if you get the sales part right, then you will get the entire engine running, right? And then you can always slow down, pause, reflect, step back, fix the entire engine and keep moving. So don't try to build a Ferrari before you have even moved like 1 feet, right? Even if you have like one old Maruti 800, if you started and move, you will still go. So whatever you have learned until now in the 11 weeks, don't get fixated on trying to do everything perfectly. You can do it in iterations. Come all the way up to the, sales. Start making the profits and, keep iterating it. That's what I've been doing, right? I had a good marketing funnel, but my products were not great. Now I am creating a great product. I hope you also believe that this is a great product as everybody else believes. We are able to go ahead and fix the product, and then we will go ahead and fix the marketing again, then we will fix the product again, and it can be done in iterations. And maybe few years down the line, I will re-record all the content I have created for the internship program and make the product even better. But I'm always focusing on sales because sales is what will keep bringing in the revenue, and without revenue you will not be able to keep your business afloat. Also remember that no one is a born salesman. It only gets better with practice. Keep practicing to become better at sales. You have to face rejection. You will meet people will say no to you, it will hurt you, but you have to be okay with it. It hurts when someone says no, but let that pain drive you to become better. Don't avoid the entire thing. Imagine a guy who likes a girl and the girl also likes the guy, and the girl is expecting the guy to go ahead and propose. And if this guy is afraid that he might get rejected by the girl, and what if this guy never goes ahead and says that, hey, I love you, and his conversion will never happen, right? So the price of going ahead and trying to convert someone, even if it is a customer, is the cost to pay, or the price to pay is that there is a possibility of rejection. And a lot of people don't go ahead and ask. They feel bad when they get rejected. They take it personally. But the thing is that if you can face rejection, then there is no limit to how much you can ask, right? I have grown my business by asking for advice with a lot of people who are better than me with what they do. They have built better companies than me, and I have asked them help, and very less times people actually say no to it, right? Even if people say no 1 or 2 times, it's going to hurt me, and I have to keep that ego aside. So being a good salesman is actually about keeping your ego aside and not letting a rejection hurt you. And if you ask more, then according to the law of large numbers, you will automatically go ahead and get more in life. So good salesmen are forged in the furnace of rejection. This is a tweet that I put out recently, and I will probably also go ahead and make a poster out of this, that good salesmen are forged in the furnace of rejection. I completely came up with this quote. I did not copy it from anywhere. So observe how you buy. What environment is right for you to make a purchase decision yourself, and let others sell to you and do not resist it. Become a lead for cars, homes, etc. Right? Even if you cannot afford Mercedes Benz, just go to Mercedes Benz website and fill up a lead form and let the salesman call you, and observe how the conversation goes. Observe how the salesman is trying to sell to you. Observe how the salesman is trying to qualify you. In fact, when I called Mercedes-Benz showrooms and BMW showrooms, a lot of times the salespeople kind of figured out that I'm not yet in a position to make a purchase, and they would not even give me their test ride car. But then I started, saying that, hey, please talk to my PA. He will go ahead and fix an appointment for me. Then they will take me seriously. Then they think that I'm a very rich CEO who is always busy. So all this is something that I have experienced at no cost. So if you go ahead and fill out a lead form, for a 1 crore flat, right? Observe how the sales process goes. Act like you are a rich person who is able to buy, and try letting them convince you, and see how good they are doing the entire sales process. In fact, I think I should give it as an assignment to you that you have to go ahead and fill up the test ride request or a site visit at a very luxurious house or a very luxurious car, and you have to observe how the sales process goes on in a B2C segment, and how you are being sold to. Because cars and homes, as we looked at in the lead generation module, are the costliest purchases that an individual will make. Everything else like appliances, TVs are also not very costly. They don't do much of lead generation and sales to sell appliances. So definitely go ahead and do it, and observe the entire sales process. You can do it like a few times and see which salesperson is doing it better, and basically learn sales from them itself. Because when you look at the salespeople of luxury cars, don't go ahead and try to request a test ride for something like Swift or something like that, because those people are not very well trained in sales. So whenever people in the automobile industry, they get better at sales, they join bigger companies where costlier cars are being sold. So the people at Mercedes Benz, BMWs, and all those companies are going to be much more refined in their sales methods, so you can learn from them. And this is also something that you should take note of. A study of the world's richest 100 people reveals that the common first job of billionaires is sales. And you can actually go ahead and find out this research. And I also know a lot of people who are very rich, and they actually started out as salespeople, because salespeople always have the power to get people to say yes, and things move faster. There are people who are billionaires just by investing, just by going ahead and developing a product by coding it. But when you look at their life, they might not have sold things directly to customers, but they are still good salespeople, right? They probably convinced investors, they convinced other people to go ahead and invest in them, they convinced their employees to work with them. So everything is sales, and you need to get better at sales. I cannot insist this enough. Now let's talk about the importance of practice and repetition when it comes to sales. So I am part of a mastermind group which is actually costing me $30,000 a year for the membership, and there are around 60 people in this mastermind group. Everybody is a multimillionaire. And I do not know of a single person in this group who has not done at least 1,000 sales calls. So every millionaire has been refined in sales. They have done so many sales calls that they know things in and out. In fact, if you do 2 sales calls a day, within 1.5 years you would have made 1,000 sales calls, right? So you will never get it right on the first time. Even I fumbled when it comes to my sales pitches when I started. And you can do role play with your fellow intern, and this is one of the exercises that I'm going to give you. And you can act like a customer, and in return ask your partner to act like a customer when you sell. So see how you handle the objections, both of you, and learn from it. Learn how to handle objections. When you have removed all the objections that a prospect has, then the sales will happen. And think about how you have purchased my internship program. You would have had certain objections in your mind. Is it going to be useful for me? Will it be useful for me in this particular age group? Will it be useful for me if this is what I want to do? So all those objections were probably cleared in my sales webinar when I explained about the program. And once all the objections are cleared, then the transaction happens very smoothly, right? So one-to-one sales practice will make you better with the sales message, which you can later replicate with sales copy, sales videos, and sales webinars. So I used to do a lot of one-to-one sales, and I understood what people wanted. And I would go ahead and put those objections in my webinar where I would answer it. So you will be able to go ahead and scale your sales using sales webinars, sales videos, sales copies only when you do one-to-one sales practice. And the more people you can talk to, as a general rule, the more you can convince them to buy your product or service. Your influence and your power always depends on how well connected you are with other people. The more connected you are with other people, the more you have an influence over them, and the better the sales you can do. And you can scale how many people you talk to in the long term, right? So that's what digital marketing is all about. Digital marketing is like an amplifier. When you look at the first automation that happened, where there is a man and machine coming together in the field of communication, which is something that we talked about in the last week 11. We looked at the idea of a loudspeaker. So if you get on a podium, or if you get on a stage, and if you have 100 people in front of you, it will be very difficult to shout to 100 people. Instead, you can use a microphone, you can talk gently, and you can even reach 1,000 people like that. So a microphone with a speaker was the first ever invention to amplify the human message. Digital marketing is something like a loudspeaker, right? Digital marketing not just helps you amplify the message and replicate it to a lot of people, but it can also do it at different time zones or time instances, right? Like when you are speaking in front of a loudspeaker to a big audience without recording it, then it is real time. It is not across time. The distance is covered because of the loudspeaker, but the time is not covered. So digital marketing can replicate your message. It can be like a loudspeaker. Some people can go ahead and watch your video on TV with a bunch of people also, and then it can be watched anytime. Like right now you are watching this video, which is a recorded video, but you are watching it anytime you want. You can watch it two times you want, and you are not listening to this as I am talking to you, right? I have done this video on a particular date and you are watching it on a later date. So digital marketing is just an amplifier for your message, and the more people you can reach to via digital marketing, the more influence you will have over them. And that is why I chose digital marketing as a field of study. And I feel that digital marketing is something that everybody should learn. Digital marketing is something like English language. English language tells you how to communicate, and digital marketing actually helps you amplify your communication. So anyone in any career, even if you have, like, let's say a quantum physicist, if a quantum physicist is having a goal of trying to educate the world about quantum physics, he can use digital marketing. He can start a blog, he can build an email list, he can go ahead and create some fundraiser around it, he can do webinars, he can create a community. So digital marketing can help politicians as well. If you want to become a politician, or if you want to help someone else become a politician, then digital marketing can help. So that is how big this field is, and that's how exciting this field is. And this is like a force multiplier for any level of expertise you have. Doctors can market themselves better if they know digital marketing. Lawyers can get more clients if they know digital marketing. Any business can get more customers if they know digital marketing. So there is no limit to it. So now let's get to the crux of this video, the natural sales blueprint methodology. I'm pretty sure that you will be mind blown when I explain this methodology to you, because this methodology will make you rich. That's how confident I am about this. So you can sell effortlessly without any pressure. And that is why it is called the natural sales blueprint. And that is the goal. We have to sell effortlessly. And the method is based on science and human psychology. It will work across cultures and languages. The method works best when you have high quality nurtured leads. Deep marketing automation will help you get nurtured leads you want, and everything that you learned in the previous lessons of this internship program is very important, because without having traffic you cannot have leads, without having leads you cannot do sales. So whatever we are learning in this week will only work if you have done whatever we have learned until now in a proper way. If you learn to sell, then you can reinvest the profits back into lead generation and nurturing, and you might not even need to worry about organic traffic sources anymore. I don't worry about organic traffic sources anymore. Most of my conversions comes from paid traffic. And you have to aim for a 10% conversion rate on a one-to-one sales call, and 5% on sales webinars, 2 to 3% on sales pages and email sales letters. So this is what you can target as a beginner. My internship program has 20% plus conversion rate on webinars itself, which I feel is pretty high. And if I do one-to-one sales calls, I'm pretty confident that I will be able to convert one person out of every 3 calls. I can convert one person into the internship program. So just as a small refresher, we need to look at what we looked at the week 11, which is the deep marketing blueprint. You are capturing the leads, you are driving traffic to your landing page. Then you are segmenting them based on what they want by collecting information from them. Then you have segment A and segment B, and then you are giving message A and message B separately to them. And that's what makes them, friendly to you. That's what makes them know you better. The traction is more because you are talking directly to them. But in most of the cases, you need a final push, which is igniting the flame, because these leads are very warm, but they might not convert into buyers automatically, right? I cannot expect people to just go through my email sequences and automatically convert into my internship program students. Even though some might, I still like to do a live sales webinar to explain and remove all the objections and to build that trust factor before the warm leads are converted into sales. You can also invite your leads to sales calls or webinars through a deep marketing sequence, right? And you might have got this yourself. So whenever I do a sales webinar, I send out a mail, but this mail is completely customized. And here you can see, you are a student, professional entrepreneur. So that is there in the first bullet point. In the second bullet point, I have put their goal. Third bullet point, I have put their challenge. And here you can see below, you can see that you want to become a freelancer or consultant. So that is their goal, and there is a custom content. And this is registered for the batch 8 launch webinar, the invitation that I am sending to people to come to my sales webinar. And by the time you are watching this video, you might be in any of the batches, but this is what I did for almost every batch. From batch 5, I have started doing this deep marketing sequence. So this is the natural sales blueprint. So natural sales blueprint is basically taking the prospect from his current state to desired state. And how are we going to do it is that we are going to ask certain questions, we are going to trigger certain answers, then we are going to place the product in between. So just remember this natural sales blueprint in your mind for now, and we will get back to it. And when I go ahead and explain what this entire chart means, then you will be able to understand things better. So the natural sales blueprint explained in detail. So when you have a lead, the lead is in a state where the current state and desired state are not separated. There is no need to buy your product because the desire is not intensified. So imagine you, before joining this internship program, you knew that digital marketing is an interesting field. You knew that you should be, investing time and energy in learning digital marketing, but you are not very, very clear what would be the benefit, right? You probably want to get to a better financial position by learning digital marketing. You probably want to spread and amplify a message. You want to start a movement, whatever it is, the reason that you are learning digital marketing. You are not very, very clear about where you are and where you want to go, right? So when this is the case, then the sale cannot happen. The process of sales itself is trying to separate the current state and the desired state, and there is a methodology to it. So the ad and the email sequence with testimonials and more information about the product is the stimulus which will make them open your sales message. So considering my internship program, if you go ahead and apply for my internship program, even before I come into a sales webinar, I am trying to stimulate you. I am trying to encourage you to come to the sales webinar by showing you results from previous students, by showing you the reviews and ratings, which is social proof, and by showing you my authority on why I am a good trainer. By showing you all this, I am going ahead and trying to convince the people who are in my leads to first invest time and pay attention to me. Before they pay money to me, they have to pay attention to me. So I'm convincing them to pay attention to me, to come to the sales webinar and listen to me. And basically I'm stimulating a little bit, but still the current state and desired state is not completely separate. So you are not selling a product or service, right? You are basically selling something that will take people from their current state to desired state. So you are selling the result of what the product will do for them. Always focus on their result and make it clear for them too. For example, if I want to buy a Mercedes Benz, it is not just about getting from one place to another. If I just want to get from one place to another, I could buy a cheaper car. A Mercedes Benz is also something that will add to my status, something that will give me extra luxury. So I'm having an end result here, right? So I'm not just buying a car, I'm actually buying the feeling that will come to me after I buy the car. That's why I buy whatever I buy. So every person in the planet Earth, on the planet Earth, buys something because they just don't want the product. They actually want the end result of that product. So there is this famous marketing quote which goes like, people don't buy a half-inch drill. Why do people buy a half-inch drill to put it into a drilling machine? They probably want a half-inch hole. That is why they buy a half-inch drill. Nobody wants a drill. People want a hole, which is the end result. And when you try to go deeper into it, people probably just don't want a hole. They probably want to put a nail in it. And people probably don't want to just put a nail in it. They want to, wall mount painting in it. And people just don't want to wall mount painting there. People probably want to feel better or feel proud when their guests visit or increase the ambience of the house. Why do people want to increase the ambience of the house? Because people would like to live a happy life. So when you look at the end result, each and every product is going to have an end result. So as a salesperson, if you don't focus on the end result and if you focus on the features of the product, then the sales will be very difficult to happen. So when you look at my own sales pitch for the internship program, I talked about what you are going to achieve after you graduate from the internship program. Instead of going on and on about the syllabus of the internship program, instead of talking about the features, I talked more about the end result, right? Because that's what people care about. The path to the end result could be anything. People don't care too much about that. I mean, a lot of people enrolled in the internship program, almost all the people enrolled in the internship program, without even clearly knowing what is the content inside each and every module. And you would have observed that when I do the sales webinar, I am not even very vocal about what are all the subtopics that people are going to get, because I am not trying to talk about the features. I am talking about the end result, which is the only thing that matters. In fact, if you go ahead and focus too much on the features, then people will start calculating and people might not even buy. There is a problem there. And when you are doing sales, you have to remember that you should not be attached to the result of the sales call. You have to focus on diagnosing the problem first. You have to come across as a private investigator who is trying to understand people's problems. So you have to understand their current situation like a doctor would understand their patients. In the medical industry, prescribing medicines without diagnosis is a crime, right? So you cannot go ahead and sell a solution to people without even understanding their problems first. So you need to act like a very advanced salesman here, where you are acting like a doctor. You are genuinely, concerned about people. You are asking them questions and then you are suggesting a result to them. Do not insult or make them feel low. You have to keep your ego aside. At the same time, do not make them feel like you are lower than them, that you are just a salesperson, right? You have to keep the balance, you have to keep the authority. So when you look at the entire natural sales methodology, this is what we start with, right? When we start with the sales process, you have the current state and the desired state together. It's not very well separated. And people are not very clear on what they can achieve by moving forward and by doing things. So people need to look at a dream first. So what most people do wrong, what the mistake that most of the salespeople do is that they don't work on separating the current state and desired state, and they instead try to push the product between these two states. So the diagram that I have here in the slide gives you a very clear indication on where the mistake happens, right? The product cannot fit inside. The product cannot sell until the current state and desired state is separated. So when there is no tension between the two states, then there is no sales. So your job as a salesperson is to increase the tension between the current state and the desired state, and the lead will buy your product as a solution to bridge their current state and desired state. So I will just explain this once more so that you can understand it better. So what you need to do is that as a salesperson, you need to reinforce the current state first. You have to accurately diagnose the current situation. For example, in my sales pitch, I would ask people how much they are making right now. And my entire program is geared towards helping people, become financially free and using these digital marketing skills to grow their business, get a job, do freelancing, affiliate marketing, do online training. But everything has a common goal, which is to earn money. So I would ask people what is the current state, so that the current state is well established. Any product or service that is designed to help people make more revenue or profits can have a question about current income. There is nothing wrong in asking that. If you are selling a weight loss related product, let's say a different niche, the question will be, what is your weight right now? Ask them what are the problems they are facing right now due to the current state. So what you are doing is that you are intensifying the pain that is there in their current state right now, and you have to recall that pain. People try to numb their pain by distracting themselves, going to parties, drinking, whatever they are doing, they are distracting themselves from the pain that they are experiencing every day. So you need to resurface it. It might look like an evil thing to do, but you have to surface the pain. Otherwise, they will never cure that pain themselves either. So for a business niche, the question will be like, what are the challenges and pain points that you are facing right now because your revenue is stuck at X per month. So let's say I'm talking to a person and I'm trying to convert them into my client for my digital marketing agency. I would ask them, see, how much revenue are you making right now? So let's say they say that right now I'm making 50 lakhs a month, and their challenges, I would ask, what are the challenges? So they will probably come back and say that I have a lot of employees, I'm not able to increase their salaries, I'm not having enough budget for spending on marketing. So now I am basically reinforcing the current situation, and I am reminding them of all the problems that they are facing because they are in the current situation. So I am kind of reinforcing the current state. So let's look at motivating them, right? So you have to motivate them to do what is necessary to get out of the current state by reminding them of the current state and the challenges, which intensifies the pain that they are in right now, right? So you have the solution. So if it is like, let's say, a weight loss niche, and you are asking the person, what are all the problems that you are facing right now because you are overweight? Let the person go ahead and talk about all the challenges that they are facing so that their pain is recalled and their pain is intensified. And they would probably give out answers like, I'm not able to play sports, I'm not able to enjoy many things which other people enjoy who are fitter than me. So something like that they would say, right? So you are basically going ahead and poking, you are adding salt to the wound. And this is something that you have to do. There is no other way to it. It might look like a very bad thing to do to people, but you have to do it. So coming back to the natural sales blueprint, so when you have established the current state, and when you go ahead and talk about the desired state, then people are like having a tension, right? Like when I sold you the internship program and I told you that if you learn digital marketing well and execute it, then you will probably be able to make more money. And let's have a dream target of making 1 crore, and I asked you to think about how it would feel if you actually made 1 crore. And if you have saved up 1 crore, you will have the sense of financial freedom. And I also ask people how much they are making right now and what are the problems that they are facing right now. And people say that because they have low income, they are not able to travel, they are stuck in a job, all that. So you see the current state and the desired state being separated, and it causes a tension, right? People want to get to the desired state more badly right now, and the product becomes the bridge, and the incentive becomes like the lubricant to cross that bridge. So this is natural sales blueprint. I hope now it's all coming together in your mind on how this entire thing works. So let's talk about reinforcing the desired state. You have to ask them where they want to go. Then you have to get specific answers from them. Once they say where they want to go, you also have to ask them how their life would change when they get to the desired state. Like, for example, if I ask you how would your life change if you had 1 crore in savings, you will start imagining. So this is called future pacing. It also brings emotion into the entire formula or the entire situation. And emotion is very important for the conversion to happen because people make emotional buying decisions. So when people go ahead and visualize how things would be if they go ahead and get to the desired state, then they are more likely to buy because the tension is higher. For example, in the business niche, if I ask people, if you are making $100,000 a month in revenue from your business right now, how would your life change right now? People would probably say that I will have a better position in the market, I will not be worried all the time, I will probably hire a CEO. All this will intensify their desire. So this is in an example where I'm trying to get someone as a client for my digital marketing agency. Let's look at one other niche, weight loss niche. If you are in perfect shape right now with optimal weight, how would your life change right now? If I ask that, then if it is a guy, he would probably think that, okay, if I am overweight and if I am weighing 90 and if I reduce my weight to 70, if I look muscular, then probably my dating prospects will improve and I might be able to date better women. And this will start, creating a positive image in his mind, and he would have this higher tension of leaving the current state and going to the desired state. So as a salesperson, you are basically helping people to visualize, you are resurfacing the pain and making it intense, and then you are strengthening the dream and you are strengthening the desire. And the better you do it and the more convincing you are, the easier the conversion will happen because your product becomes the bridge for them to get to the desired state. I also ask people, what is stopping you from achieving that state by yourself? Why do you need help? Because it is very important that when you talk to people, you don't become like a consultant and give out so much information. You have to be a salesperson, you have to hold the actual value that you are giving, but you also have to ask them whether they will be able to do it themselves. And if you have noticed my sales webinars, you might have noticed that I ask a question. Do you think that you can achieve this by yourself? Do you think that you can go ahead and get to your desired state by yourself? People have to say no to it, because only then the product that I am selling makes sense, right? Because that is what people use to get to their desired state. So unless people admit that they cannot get to some place by themselves, they will not be likely to buy your product. So get them to accept that they need you and your solution to get from their current state to desired state. As simple as that. So points to remember. Let's look at the most important points. You have to keep your ego out of the way. If your prospect feels like you have ego, the conversion will not happen. You have to have a genuine desire to help your prospect. If you do not love helping people, then this business is not probably for you. You cannot sell if you do not love helping people. Sit in a quiet room and have complete concentration when you are doing the sales calls. Do not have any distractions. Do not take sales calls from the car or from a noisy place. You have to respect your time and their time. So show up on time. Be punctual. Wear headphones so that you can take notes, and you can also use hand gestures to keep the conversation flowing, right? It makes it natural. People say that even if you smile on phone without being on video, people can feel that you are smiling because it changes the voice tone, and people can pick up on it. So right now, as I am creating this video recording, even though I am not in front of you in video, I'm actually using hand gestures to explain whatever I am explaining right now. So you need to use hand gestures when you are talking to people, and resist the need to keep talking. Ask a question, and until they answer, stay silent. Have a smooth flow. Do it only on phone without video during the initial calls if you are not comfortable on video. Video is good for sales webinars to develop the trust. But if you are doing one-on-one sales calls rather than going on Zoom calls and doing video calls, you can still go ahead and use phone. One more thing, you have to remember that during the conversation, you have to be the alpha. You have to set the agenda and they should follow your agenda. If you let your prospect take control of the call, and if your prospect sets the agenda, then you have already lost the sale. There is no point spending time with them because they are just going to waste your time. They are probably playing an ego game with you, in reverse. So you respect them, you let them speak, don't interrupt, but at the same time, do not let them take control, right? So this is why I have called my premium mastermind community called Alpha Club. And I even went ahead and bought the premium domain name alphaclub.com. And I was, visualizing that, sales has a lot to do with being alpha. Unless you are the alpha, you cannot, control the narrative and you cannot convince people. So Alpha Club means that a community of multimillionaires who are very good salespeople. So I will let you know more about the Alpha Club. The basic requirement for joining the Alpha Club is that you should have made at least 1 crore in revenue with your business in the past 3 years. So that is something that you might want to look out for. But continuing with the presentation, let's look at presenting the solution, right? So now that you have separated the current state and the desired state, you have to place the product in between the current state and desired state carefully so that the transaction happens, so that your prospect crosses the bridge, which is buying your product to get to their desired state. So how do you present the solution? Now that the current state and desired state is separated clearly, the next step is to present the solution to them. You have to ask permission to share your solution. That is when they will feel like they are not being sold to. And if you notice my webinars, I always ask people, can I go ahead and share my solution with you? And people will say yes, then I will share my solution. Polarize them with a no. So what do I mean by polarizing with a no? Usually you can ask a question and either you can get people to say yes to it or you can get people to say no to it. Like for example, if I ask you, hey, do you want to go ahead and make 1 crore, then you will probably say yes. But the strength of that yes is not very strong because that 1 crore is going to be in the future. It's imaginary, it doesn't exist right now, and your yes is not very strong. If I ask you, hey, do you want to remain in the current situation? So let's assume that you are stuck in a job which you hate, but you are stuck in the job because you need income. And if I ask you, hey, do you want to be stuck in the job which sucks, and do you want your career to get affected because you are not enjoying what you do? You will say no. And here, the no is more powerful than the yes because the no is stuck to the current situation which is real. So when you polarize people with a no, they are more likely to go ahead and say yes to your offer when they clearly know what is it that they don't want, which is the current state. Example, do you want to remain in your current situation and miss the opportunity to grow? Do you want to continue facing your challenges? So you have to be more specific. I have kept it vague here. So you can put this in any niche that you want. You have to be confident in your solution. Show proof of past customers getting solutions as well. And as a salesperson, you should honestly believe that your product is going to make the lives of your prospect better. Because if you don't believe in that, then you will hesitate asking money for it and you will not be able to sell. The amount of confidence that you have in your own product and in yourself is going to directly impact the amount of conversions that you are getting. There are no shortcuts around this. You can also go ahead and give an incentive to close the deal. And you know that I always give bonuses for action takers. So if you sign up today, we will give you a discount and some bonuses. People always respond to incentives. So that is something that you can use. And do not take maybe for an answer, right? If people are like, okay, maybe I will join, maybe I will not join, then that's actually a little bit of a problem because they are becoming the alpha and they are not giving you a clear answer. If you want to be an alpha, then you have to polarize them. You have to ask for a yes or a no. If they don't want to buy, let them say no and let them tell you why they are not buying, right? Let them put a reason. So this is something that I have started doing in my sales webinars, where if they have not bought, I give them a form and I ask them to fill the form and I ask them, why is it that they are not, buying? Is it because they have a limitation in terms of finances? Is it because they don't trust me? Is it because their need to learn digital marketing is not intense enough? They are not sure whether digital marketing is for them. So this helps me go ahead and address their problems better. And they also go ahead and get polarized, right? In the process of answering why they don't want it, they actually will have a clarity on why they want it. So when a customer is not buying, try to understand why they are saying no and get a clear no from them, right? You want to know the reason. So if they are hesitating to give a clear no, then there is a very good chance that they might turn into a customer. So now let's talk about one more important thing. When you become a salesperson, then you will start having doubts about yourself and you will start having doubts about your own capability to sell. And it is very important to overcome it. And I will talk about some analytics around this and some numbers around this. So the biggest challenge for salespeople is managing their emotional swings. Sometimes they will feel positive and sometimes they will feel negative. A salesman will have a winning streak where he or she will convert 5 sales calls back to back. And then there will be a slump where there will not be any conversions for 10 to 15 calls. And this is something that we learnt about in lead generation module as well, regression towards the mean and law of large numbers. So it applies very much here as well. So when the conversions come, there is a high. The salesperson is full excited, thinks that he can conquer the world, thinks that he's going to build $1 billion company. And then there will be a conversion drop where there is a feeling of worthlessness and failure. So a salesman will always swing between this. An entrepreneur also swings between these two extremes and eventually it starts calming down a little bit. Managing this emotion can be challenging and many people do not do sales because managing self-doubt is very difficult. So they just stay away from sales, telling some reason that sales is not such a great job, sales is stressful, or whatever stories that they sell themselves, which they are very good at selling. People can sell themselves the idea that they are not good at selling, but if people can sell themselves the idea that they are not good at selling, then they are still good salespeople, right? So it contradicts it with each other. You might want to just rewind that and listen to that part again. So the only way to get out of this problem is to be analytical and non-emotional. Track all the sales calls and make sure that you listen to the recordings and take notes on what went well and what didn't. Don't change many variables at the same time. If you are trying something new in terms of pricing or in terms of offer, in the entire sales process, just change one variable. Like for example, your entire sales pitch is the same, only the price keeps differing. So then you keep the price constant and keep changing the discounts. Keep the discounts and the price constant, change the presentation. So you will only be able to find out what is working and what is not working if you change one variable at a time. If you change all the variables at the same time, then you will not know what worked and what didn't, right? So remember that. And look at the conversion ratio from 100 sales calls and aim for at least 10% conversion, right? If you go ahead and only do 10 sales calls, you might get 5 conversions or you might get 0 conversions. If you make only 20 sales calls, the numbers are still not very solid. But if you have 100 sales calls and let's say you are able to convert 14 people out of 100 sales calls, then you know that your conversion ratio is 14%. So if you get another 100 calls, then you can be sure that you will convert at least 40 people out of them. So it averages out at 100 sales when it comes to sales. When it comes to lead generation, it will average out at the number 1000, which we talked about in the lead generation module. So now let's get started with sales. Let's ignite it. So how do you get started? How do you start making money? What is the best place to get started? Just get started. Just start making calls. So treat every sales call as an experiment with which you can learn. That is the mindset you need to have. You are never going to get it right on the first attempt. Learn to enjoy the process, but do not treat it like a consultation call. Do not give away everything. You are not here to teach people. But learn to enjoy the process of sales. It is going to be a little bit stressful in the beginning, but you will learn to love it. Your sales calls will work only if you have chosen your niche properly and generated traffic and nurtured the leads. So there is no excuse for not having done the first 11 weeks of the program well. Everything in sales, the success will depend on how you have done things so far. You also need a clear positioning in the market, which means your niche selection has to be right. You can practice in front of the mirror if required, if you are doing sales calls. And public speaking helps in getting better at sales. So I would always recommend you to become a better public speaker if you want to get better at sales. And these one-to-one sales calls will give you a better idea about what people want in the market. You can fine-tune your product based on it. And one important thing is that you need to use an app like Calendly to get people to schedule a call with you. Never call people randomly because you have their phone numbers. So what you need to do is that you can do a webinar and then ask people to schedule a call with you. And you can give the Calendly link. So Calendly is an app where you open up your calendar to the world and people can book appointment slots with you. So you just define what are your appointment slots available and people can book it. So people also feel like this is a serious discussion. So people will also show up on time. Your time is not wasted. People's time is not wasted. You have the opportunity to sit and do the call from a silent place. You can also tell your prospect to take the call from a silent place. So when you do this, then you will have better conversion ratios. And you can have a sales call for maybe 30 minutes. Usually sales calls can go for 45 minutes also, but 30 minutes at least is recommended. You can do certain sales calls in 15 or 20 minutes also, but try to have the call in such a way that all the objections are cleared. The simpler your product is, the quicker the sales call will be. So now let's talk about automating your sales. So once you start making these calls one-to-one and once you start converting, you need to start scaling up, right? You cannot always rely on doing manual sales calls. Whatever manual sales call you are doing, it is to understand your market better. It is to understand the objections better. It is to improve your communication of sales better. But in the long term, you might want to automate certain aspects of this. So you can use the same sales message that you give one-to-one and you can put it on sales pages and sales videos. You will not be able to put in the right content if you have not made at least 500 sales calls, right? I talked about, these millionaires in the mastermind group who have at least done 1,000 sales calls. So the more sales call you do, the better you will be. And it's a huge barrier of entry, right? Most of the people are not disciplined enough to do a lot of sales calls. And if you follow the traffic lead generation methodology that I have explained to you so far, then you will never run out of leads. You can always generate leads to n number of different methods, and you can always do the sales calls. If you do not have something to sell yourself, then try to sell something else. I mean, you can go ahead and promote my internship program as an affiliate, and try to convince people to purchase the internship program, and you will be able to go ahead and earn a commission on it. You can promote anything else as well. If you sell via one-on-one sales calls, then you will be able to have a higher conversion, especially on higher ticket items where the affiliate commission is higher. So once you have found a list of common objections, you can include it in your sales video and sales page, which can be personalized through tools like WriteMessage. And you can also have live chat support on your sales page where the common objections are answered. It can also be a chat bot which answers the common objections. You will be able to get to that level of efficiency only if you do the one-on-one sales calls properly, because without the one-on-one sales calls, you don't even have an idea about what people want to know and why people hesitate to buy your product. Most of the people I know who try to create a product, put it on a website, they don't go ahead and do one-on-one sales calls. They just assume that this is what people want, and they try to put it on a page, they drive traffic to it, and then they come to a consultant like me complaining that they are not getting conversions and they are not making sales, revenue is not coming in. That's because there is a huge gap in the communication. The message is not resonating with the target audience. I also do not recommend completely automating the sales process, because during live sales webinar, the conversion is always high, especially for a complex product. Like for example, until now, I have not created a sales video for the internship program and enrolled people automatically. I always do it in a live sales webinar. So I don't want to go ahead and completely automate it, because when the value is high, you will be able to have a higher conversion with live calls. And try scaling your sales with more people in a live sales webinar or with a sales team, right? Your sales team should go through your sales calls and sales webinars. So these are the different ways to scale. You cannot always scale it just with content, because the content is not interactive. If it is just a recorded video, then people are not going to watch the entire video properly. If it is a live webinar, then people are highly likely to sit until the end of the webinar. The conversions that can be done by your sales team will not be as high as what you can do. So you can try a hybrid approach. So what I do is that now I have my team members starting to do sales calls. So I have Kamna Jain, who was the intern in batch 1. Now she is working with me full time and she does sales calls. Now she has got really good at it, but I appear in the beginning of the webinar and I appear at the end of the webinar as well to reinforce the sales message. So you can try a hybrid approach like that, which will help you start scaling your sales, because at some point you need some scalability. Because if you keep trying to convert people one-on-one, then you have limited time in a day and you can only convert limited people. So now let's talk about digital freelancing and job opportunities in sales. So a lot of businesses do not have a sales team. You can work with businesses as a commission-based salesperson with a base salary. So you can say that I will have this much base salary, plus I will have bonuses on every sale I make. You can also hire a few people who are sales professionals, and you can provide sales as a service to a particular niche, because now you are equipped with the natural sales blueprint, the natural sales methodology, because this is something that most of the people don't know out there. Most of the sales people don't know out there. This is very, very powerful. And since you know this, you can even start a sales agency, right? And you can maybe add sales as one of the services that you can give along with your marketing agency, where you can go ahead and drive traffic to your clients' websites. You can generate the leads, but you can also do sales as a service. Such a business model already exists at closers.com. So you can check closers.com. They have a team of closers. So always be closing, ABC. Working in sales for some other companies will give you experience without having to pay for the leads. You can use apps like pipedrive.com to track your deals. And when you have a lot of leads and sell via webinars, a deal pipeline like Pipedrive is not required. So that is something that I will teach you separately. I will create a small video about how Pipedrive can be used. It's a good CRM. You can configure Pipedrive for multiple salespeople and you can update this deals via API. A lot of businesses use Pipedrive for inside sales processes. And other CRMs include HubSpot, Close.io, Freshsales, Zoho, Monday.com, Trello. So any of this can be used to track your sales, especially when you are selling high-end products, to basically move the deal, fix appointments, and follow up with people. So now that we have talked about digital freelancing opportunities and job opportunities in sales, let's talk about sales when it comes to digital mentoring. Learning sales was the best investment I have ever done for my mentoring and training business. Selling digital mentorship is easy because the content doesn't cost to replicate. You can create one course and sell it 100 times or 1000 times, and your base cost doesn't go up. You can do free webinars and then upsell a paid product in the webinar. If done right, the cost of ads and lead generation will be less than the profit that you make. So you will have a profit margin. To be good at a sales webinar, you have to do one-on-one sales calls first. I cannot, go ahead and insist it more. I cannot try to, tell you how important it is that you should do one-on-one sales calls first, because only then you will understand your audience. You will have a lot of insights that you will get, which will completely change your assumptions about the market. You have to understand the common objections. So then you can get good at webinar sales. So in the digital mentorship internship program, I'm going to talk about how to do sales webinars and everything. But you have to get started with this process now. The questions that you usually ask on one-to-one sales calls can be asked via a poll if you are doing a webinar. And you might have noticed how I do my internship program sales webinars. I basically run a poll and ask people to answer in the poll to go ahead and get their answers. And you can also sell high ticket affiliate programs via direct sales processes, as I have mentioned before. So that's where your journey starts. I mean, this internship program might look like it has come to an end now. And yes, you have some bonus videos as well. But this 12-week structure is a very solid structure. So we are towards the end of the internship program. But for you, this is where it starts, right? And now let's look at the next action steps that you have to do for this particular week. So what are the next action steps? So create a copy of the sales tracking sheet. I have a sales tracking sheet. I will give the link to you. And in this sheet, you can go ahead and track your sales calls. You can go ahead and put comments on what is working, what is not working, and basically calculate the conversion percentage. Set up Calendly and send out cold emails to book at least 5 sales calls. So this is also something that I will demonstrate in a separate video. It is pretty simple. You can get started if you don't need to watch the video. And make at least 3 sales calls from the appointments you have scheduled, right? I want you to get appointment for at least 5 sales calls by sending out cold emails or telling about it to people in a webinar, talking about it in a community. But schedule sales calls and make at least 3 sales calls and go ahead and write out the experience. One more thing that I will add to this entire week as an exercise is that I want you to go ahead and become a lead for a luxury car company and for a luxury real estate company. And I want you to talk about the entire experience you have had going through the sales process of a luxury product. I want you to listen to the sales call recordings that you make and note down the improvements that can be made, and do not record the sales calls of your prospects because they might not be comfortable with it. I want you to find a friend or a fellow intern with whom you can do a role play. Sell something to them and let them sell something to you. Record this call and upload it as part of your assignment, because when you are doing the sales call with your friend as a role play, then that particular recording can be done. So further details about how to do the assignment for week 12 will be shared in the assignment explanation video. And with that note, I have to end this program. I have to end this video. I hope you have had an excellent learning experience from the week 1 of the internship program all the way to week 12. but nothing is completely ended. I'm still going to catch up with you on the weekly mastermind calls. I'm going to catch up with you with the Digital Marketing Club and hopefully in the Alpha Club as well. And I'm going to meet you again with additional bonus videos and assignment explanation video. So thank you and thanks a lot. Bye bye.